potential of the youth of Nigeria. Today, over 75% of the population is under the age of 35. More decisive actions are needed to turn this demographic asset into an economic dividend. A young, productive, youthful population with access to education, skills, social protection, affordable housing, and medical care will power Nigeria's economy now and well into the future. We must move away from the so-called youth empowerment programs. The youth do not need handouts. They need investments. I would therefore like to commend you, Mr. President, for your decision to establish the Youth Investment Fund. That is why also the African Development Bank is currently working with central banks and countries all across the continent to design and support the establishment of what we call Youth Entrepreneurship Investment Banks. These will be new financial institutions run by young, professional, and highly competent financial experts and bankers to develop and deploy new financial products and services for businesses and ventures of young people. Several African countries have already indicated their readiness to establish youth entrepreneurship investment banks. Here is the lesson. Nigeria should make its youth the drivers of the new economy through the creation of youth entrepreneurship investment banks that puts new financial ecosystems around them to fully unleash their potential. This will take the Youth Investment Fund, which you have established, Mr. President. It will take it to scale. It will institutionalize it, and it will make it sustainable.
Thanks for staying with us. Three gentlemen join us this morning to address the youth addressing Nigeria. First of all, we have with us in the studio here Abimbola Oyarino, who is a public affairs analyst. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We also have with us in our Abuja studio, co-founder Connected Development, that's Code, Hamzat Lawal, joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you for joining us this morning, Mr. Lawal.
Thank you for having me. I'm the
as
founder.
well,
Thank you.
yes please, as well as Victor Anilajo, who is a politician and tech entrepreneur. He joins us virtually. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Victor.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Good morning. So, yeah, well, let's start with you, Mr. Oyarino. The calls for
Dr. Oyarino, apologies.
Dr. Oyarino, yeah. I didn't see the stethoscope, maybe okay. That's why. My apologies. The call has been loud, and it's been a long time coming. The youths are the leaders of tomorrow. It's something I've been hearing since I was very small, and it would seem like it's a long time coming.
Of course.
The clamor is loud now. Yeah. People want youths to lead, to come into the fray, but it would seem like the youths are very reluctant to join politics. How then is that going to happen?
Well, I mean, I'll use myself as an example. I think I know some of the things that can bring us out of this doldrum that we find ourselves. Because I've taken time to actually study. As a young man, I wanted to change my country. I wanted to have a country I'm proud of. But growing up, the reality is different from what you have on paper. You just know that there's no inroad, there's no access, except you have someone who wants to, drag you to that position. And
inroad or access into what?
Into politics. It's not. It has been hijacked. Let me put it that way. It has been hijacked, and accessibility for young, qualified Nigerians is not there. You see a lot of, I mean, it is attracting a number of youths, but what kind of youth? This is those with high nuisance value, who can actually do the things that I cannot do. Those are the people who have the access. And that is the problem. Because growing up, I envisioned everything that I have done, everything that I have studied. In fact, my PhD thesis was also directed in understanding some of the challenges that we face and how, change can be done. But the question is, will there be access?
When you say access, what exactly do you mean? Is that the roads are short, or in what ways?
You see, I'm a structural realist, and I believe that structure determines everything. We tend to overemphasize the place of the human intellect. But without the requisite structure, the human brain is more or less less functional, let me put it that way. What do I mean by structure? You see, the kind of money I need to get into Nigerian politics, I might not have it till I turn 60. These are the realities. The kind of platform I need, because growing up, you have been told to keep quiet, your opinion doesn't count. It stems from the family structure. You understand that sociologists have actually argued that the family is the primary socializer. And from the family, you have a family system, a family culture that tells you that as a young person, you don't have an opinion. It is what the elderly person tells you. That's valid. So this is where the formation of the idea of suppression of the youth comes from. Then we now transmit it to the society. We have timid people. I have a friend who mentioned that there's something about people who go to the UK and they come back. They become very emboldened. They can speak their mind. I said, this is culture. Culture can actually change things. So we have to go down to the roots and actually to tackle this problem, really.
Well, let me take this to you, Mr. Lawal. There are those who have also argued that most of the people who fought for Nigeria's independence were between ages 27 and, say, 35 tops. And here we are, Mr. Yarino, Dr. Yarino is saying we have a challenge of access for youths in politics. What's your take?
Well, nobody would give you access to politics. Politics is not a tea party. Nobody would hand you over power, even if you're young, old, if you're a woman or a person with disability. You have to take it, democratically. So, but then again, you don't need money to join politics. You only need money to run for office through the political process. I agree with my brother, but I think that time are changing. Time are changing because when you look at young people and active participation, yes, young people are leading in every sector. So when you go to agriculture, when you go to civic technology, when you go to innovation, look at what young people are doing in Yaba. When you come to businesses, the financial sector, fin technology, when you come to civic space, young people are leading. But in politics, you hardly find young people who are not only leading, but sitting on that political policy and decision making. And the solution is simple. The problem itself is a political problem. And the solution must start politically. But then again, I think 2023 provides a unique opportunity. Before 2019, I had said on channels that we as young people cannot provide the youth president in 2019. And I had said at that time that the best way for us to get the system, penetrate the system, and consolidate our actions as young people is after 2019 elections, we should start playing partisan and active politics. But then 2023 could give us an edge where, again, mind you, politics has to do with negotiation and a lot of diplomacy. But power only listens to power. So as imagine young leaders and imagine politicians, how can we consolidate? Because there are pockets of voices, there are pockets of conversations and meetings happening. But how can we as young people consolidate all of this conversation and action and then use our numbers? Because numbers in politics is power. It translates into power. How can we use these numbers to now negotiate Because if we don't get it right ahead 2023, then 2027 will become more difficult. Because for me, 2027 is a turning point. Because in 2023, what we can actually do is negotiate and at least get a few percentage across board. So is it ministerial slot? Is it heads of MDAs? You know, because these are positions that we must ensure that young people, and I think I need to pause and even circle back a bit. So we have youth and we have young people. Youth, and when I say youth, I'm talking about people below 35 years. Young people above 35 to 55. Mind you, the demography above 35 to 55 are the forgotten generation. My own generation below 35 are the generation that are striving to penetrate and break that jinx. And I say they're forgotten rather because our generation and the generation above 35 to 55 are a generation of broken promises. What do I mean? Yes, they keep saying we're the future leaders, we're the future of Nigeria. But no one invested in us. No one deliberately invested in young people. And this is not about empowerment because, you know, like Adeshina has said, empowerment is giving out handouts. How are you investing in younger politicians and younger leaders? And how are you also ensuring that we have generational equity and generational dialogue? I think what is happening now in politics is the fact that the older politicians who are really smart and seasoned, because the only thing they've done all through their lives is playing politics, so they don't have skill, they don't have experience outside of politics, and you can't do away with them. What we need is to ensure that these older politicians who are polished can actually look at younger people and younger politicians and transfer this knowledge and also learn from us because we are the technology-driven generation. And I believe if we have intergenerational equity and dialogue, then we can start dealing with, you know, is it gender inclusiveness and people with disability. But I believe that, again, my generation, my constituents can become that changing tide ahead 2023. And ultimately in 2027, I believe that probably Nigeria would have one of the youngest presidents in 2027. But most importantly, we must actively participate because, again, politics decides everything. Politics decides if you would even lose your license as Channels Television. Politics decides if you get a job as a young person. And when you get a job, how much you're being paid, how much tax is being deducted, and if you get health care or you get even a quality lifestyle. So politics is everything in Nigeria, sadly. With our generation, what would bring into politics is the fact that we'll transition politics into public policy and service delivery. And this is one thing the older politicians are not getting right.
Politics also determines whether or not a fintech profits or not. Well, let me ask Mr. Victor Anilaju, you have been in the fray. You contested the presidency in 2019, and I understand you're still throwing your hat into the ring for the next one. What's been your experience as a young person in politics?
So, thank you for having me. First of all, like you asked about my experience has been wonderful. My experience so far with especially the young Nigerians that make up 80% of Nigeria population, which is about 150 million young people. Right? When I mean young people, I mean from the age of 16 to about 55, right? So these persons has been in support of me, in cheering me up to see that whatever vision I have, the help vision I have for Nigeria will bring into pass. Now, the challenge is before now, I use the word before now, is because we still have a lot of old, greedy politicians who have disrupted the Nigerian governmental structure to favor them. But at this time, as we speak, I think now the young Nigerians, we are now more intelligent, we are now more determined, we are now more focused on getting our nation back to our hands. Like I always say, if anything goes wrong with Nigeria today, it will affect us, the younger generation, more. The older generation, they have lived their life. So even if Nigeria wake up today, they careless. If people are suffering in Nigeria, they careless because they are living flamboyant life. A lot of them stay abroad. So I'm really talking to the people, the young Nigerians. We make up 80% of the population of Nigeria today. And if we feel that the government is not working for us, I mean, it's not working. A country should work for majority of her population. And if the younger generation happens to make up 80% of that population and is not working for us, we heard the president said during his independence speech that they're empowering 1 million youth on Empower. 1 million. Can you compare 1 million to 150 million people? And how much does Empower give you? Empower gives you 40,000 naira. But you know what? We are tired of all of this empowerment. We don't need empowerment. We need our nation back to us. The young Nigerians can lead this country to a greater height. We have the ability, we have the skill, we have the intellect, we have the numbers, right? Don't let anybody deceive you and telling you that the young people, they are not ready. That's a lie. And you always hear that from the mouth of the old greedy politicians. They know that they are ready. They know that when we come into power, Nigeria will change. The resources will go around the entire nation. So that's why they are preventing us from coming into power. They know that when we come into power, those excesses of money that they always have, we will not have it, right? You can't lead a country of over 80%, which is about 150 million young people, with people in their 80s, in their 70s. No, now. The inspiration is not there. The president might have good ideas, might have good intention, but you cannot relate to young people using elderly people.
Yeah,
it's even in universities these days. Most of the professors.
Pardon me, let's see how we can go around. Time flies when you're looking at this kind of matters. And if we could take a little further on that point that he's making about empowering young people, not just this youth empowerment programs, which are not seen to be achieving or making the desired impact. We also did hear Dr. Adesina talk about youths don't need handouts, they need investment. What is the thinking in terms of how this is being approached? And if he talks about investment, what do you see? How should that be approached?
Well, basically, I would still emphasize the place of structure. We have a lot of young people who are actually very knowledgeable and, creating their own space in spite of the structure, not giving them that platform to thrive. You would know that a lot of Nigerians are doing well in the tech space. A lot of Nigerians are, distinguishing themselves in the international community. And the question is, why do they thrive when they go outside Nigeria and they don't thrive when they are in Nigeria? It boils down to the structure and how, the structure gives them room to operate. So going forward, the place of empowerment, I can understand that it's overplayed because there are different empowerment schemes that have come up from government to government, and to what extent has that affected the youth positively. The time for handout is over because we don't even have the funds to start giving handouts. And but there are long-term plans, there are short-term plans, and there are immediate palliatives. What we see often are immediate palliatives, and I just want to draw attention to what has happened recently and where palliative has actually worked to actually save us from what would have been a Venezuelan case, where the government intervened in the economy to ameliorate the COVID-19 situation. To a large extent, that has worked in blocking some of the, for example, the recession. We are out of it. That has worked. And this palliative should be short-term agenda. It should not be something that is recurring. It should be a response to events like the COVID-19 that wasn't expected, So I believe that we should now have a focus on long-term investment in youth-related issues. For example...
Just 1 second. Okay. On that, because as Chemilin said, we don't really have much time. So reference what Hamza Lawal said the other time, when he said that the young people, power is not given, it is taken. If you agree, what should be the plan for young people to use their numbers? He also said the numbers is a power negotiation tool. So is there a way that you think young people can actually come together and galvanize that strength?
Yeah, I will hinge my argument on two theories, and that is the Marxist perspective to change and the functionalist perspective. The Marxist perspective is what we saw play out during the NSAS. But is that what we want? That is a question we might want to answer. Revolutionary change. Another thing will be the functional change. You know, we'll evolve into power. And that takes time. You know, I don't see the youth coming to power in 2027, like my colleague said. If situations still remains the same as it is presently. We need to understand our power first, that we do have a power, and power is in numbers. But then you go back to the structure. Okay. Do you have the youth from the north speaking the same language with the youth from the south? These are the issues.
That speaks to whether or not the youths can or are organized. Can organize themselves or are organized themselves to do what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, all right. Sorry, pardon me. Well, Hamza, in addition to that, I know you may want to respond to that, but I'd like to get your thinking in terms of when it said that, look, these handouts don't work, you need investments in youth. I mean, being someone in that space, entrepreneurial space, what will your thinking be?
I run a homegrown Nigeria initiative called Follow the Money. And today you have Follow the Money in 9 countries. And there's growing interest in Canada, in US, in Europe, and Southeast Asia. Why is that so? Today the world is led by ideas. Money plays small role. What's important is the vision, you know? Do you have a vision? Do you have an idea that is revolutionary and that can change things and turn things around? What I see are opportunities, not problems. Because if you see problems, then we would continue to dwell in the past. But when we see opportunities to engage, when we see opportunities to change things and leverage on technology and build consensus and invest in building alliances, see, young people are organizing. Young people are also transferring knowledge. If we're not organizing, Mr. President would not sign the Not Too Young to Run Act. Mind you, because a lot of people have collective amnesia. Mr. President did not sign it because he likes young people or he likes our face. No. He signed it because we gave him an ultimatum and there was pressure on Mr. President. The same pressure we organized and put on National Assembly and put on the State Assembly and got the Constitution to be amended. So we're organizing. We are engaging. But I think that we need to mobilize more and engage at the grassroots level. See, Chamberlain, this English we're speaking is not the language that the people at the grassroots understand. I've just returned back from the Northeast, engaging young leaders on the ground, speaking their language and telling them a vision of the kind of Nigeria that we all see. And see, the young people in the South and the East, the North, the West, the Middle Belt are speaking in the same language. Maybe they're communicating differently, but if you look deeper, they're saying the same things. They're saying that we have been marginalized over time and power must be given to us. And my brother mentioned the answers. Let's not mistake that people in government that are devilish infiltrated and mobilized thugs and paid them. Again, that's why you say handout. You know, you gave young people who are heavy on drugs handouts to go and attack other young people who are mobilizing, organizing, and protesting against police brutality. So that's what happened. Let's not change history. So again, let's go back to politics. You see,
just a quick one. There are some issues that you have raised.
It's not about leading campaigns and collecting PVC.
Just a second. You raised some very, very crucial issues about interfacing with young people in the Northeast and all over the place in the country. There is another argument that's been on, and I don't know how you would take that on board in this conversation, especially since you follow the money, so to speak. It's the issue of weaponizing poverty against the youth. How is that going to be addressed? Because if young people don't have money, they don't have opportunities to make money, the next the first person that comes with any offer of sorts is likely to be the one that they will follow. So how do we navigate that and still get the vital issues to reach these young people for the Nigeria of their dreams?
Oh, we're already reaching these young people. See, sadly, money bags, political money bags, have made so much wealth and money, engaging the system, and that's why we have a lot of abandoned projects across Nigeria. How do we engage? We're already engaging, and we're telling young people that, see, you cannot sell your present and your future if you continue to collect money. Yes, this money will be thrown at you if you don't have personal conviction. You would take this money, and even this money could cause crisis amongst youth group. But we have a collective of young people. We have what we call the Future Collective, and a lot of young people across board have been having consultation and have been having dialogue. We've been reaching out to other young people at the hinterlands, in the grassroots, trying to educate them. See, in the next couple of weeks, I'll be leading a campaign in motor parks, in public spaces like the market. We cannot sit in our comfortable zone in Abuja and we think that things will turn and things will change for good. No, we must engage those people you call Agbero, those people you say they're uneducated. We must engage them. We must sit with them, eat amala, eat tuwo, and transfer knowledge into them and make them understand that, see, if you want a better Nigeria during election, do not take up arms. And if those politicians come at you and give you money to take arms, ask them where are their kids. Okay. I wanted to say that, see, in 2023, it's not about collecting your permanent voter's card. What is important is going out to vote. Imagine if we have over 80% voter turnout. That is already winning election as young people. Because if you have your permanent voter's card and you're just taking selfie with it, but on election day you don't go and queue up and cast your ballot, then how would you protect your vote? And how would Yaga, for instance, help us to watch our vote? So it's important that beyond collecting your PVC, if you go out on election day, cast your vote.
The conversation has to be endless, Mr. Lawal, but let me quickly take this on to Mr. Anilaju just before we wrap it all up. Now, this is where we are now, and your experience you have described as something that has been eye-opening. But then the issues are there that both Dr. Yarino and Mr. Lawal have raised, and that is engaging the youth and mobilizing them. It's one thing to engage, it's another thing for them to be mobilized. Now, what are the challenges you see for young people, and what would be your recommendations to solving them?
Okay, so basically our biggest challenge now is the old incompetent politicians. They are our biggest problem, both politically, economically, and otherwise. They are our biggest problem. In fact, they are causing more damage to our future than good. But you see, the eyes of the young Nigerians are now open. They now know the problem of our generation, that these old incompetent politicians, they are not interested in the young generation. And that is why our economy is going down. But to solve this problem, we have started a national voters campaign, which is ongoing right now as we speak. There are a lot of young Nigerians that are already registering to get their voters card online. And like myself, I've declared to run for the seat of the president. And we are going to have a lot of young people contesting the seat of the presidency and also the Senate House and the House of Representatives. In fact, we are mobilizing a team of young aspirant candidates.
Yeah, it's an endless conversation until we get young people to be as active as they ought to be in the scheme of things, because ultimately the future is theirs. For now, my apologies, we really have run out of time. We have to let you go now. Yes. Victor Anilaju is a politician, presidential aspirant, as you've heard, and he's also a tech entrepreneur, as well as Hamzat Lawa, who is co-founder, Connected Development, it's Code, joined us from our Abuja studio, as well as Abimbola Oyarino, Dr. Abimbola Oyarino, public affairs analyst. He joins us here in Lagos. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, it's clearly a conversation that we will hold in the days ahead and keep holding.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can't neglect your future and expect things to go good for you.